Passengers expect punctual, reliable and speedy service from Germany's railway company Deutsche Bahn. But Klaus Wieselski can throw a wrench into the works by calling a strike. He's the head of Germany's train drivers' union, the GDL. Up until now, only one collective bargaining agreement could represent all workers in a given company. But now, different agreements can exist with one employer.
The fact that we exist is proof that we need multiple agreements. 85% of all train drivers are members of GDL. We're well organized, and that's problematic for employers.
Germany's Federal Labor Court has ruled that each and every union, even small ones, have the right to negotiate labor agreements and go on strike.
When you have various different collective bargaining agreements for people doing the same job in the same company, the danger arises that neither employers nor employees nor their workers' councils know what's going on.
Germany's National Employers Association is pushing to re-establish one collective labor agreement. And surprisingly enough, they have support from an organization that's usually a staunch opponent, the Confederation of German Trade Unions.
The recommendation is, whenever a company has two different wage agreements, although the people concerned are doing exactly the same job, then the wage agreement that was signed by the union with the most members should take precedence.
In other words, the larger unions win out. In the case of railway employees, that means the largest union, Transnet, would negotiate agreements and decide when workers go on strike. The smaller train drivers' union wouldn't have any say in the matter.
I would say the aim is to get rid of the troublesome competition from the smaller trade unions. It's a fact that the large unions don't stand up for the interests of specific groups within their organization.
Now, instead of working together, trade unions are working against each other. A strange scenario.
Every single euro can only be distributed once. After every round of negotiations, specific increases have to be allotted. We fear that certain occupational groups dominate, like train drivers or rail traffic controllers. They're able to achieve a lot more for themselves because they can apply more pressure.
The German government is also wary of multiple wage agreements because it fears they could lead to disputes and ultimately strikes.
It's important to us that constant strikes don't start to cripple entire companies who can no longer produce important commodities. We want legislation that enables both freedom of association and uniform wage agreements.
Germany's Social Democrats say they fight for the rights of the small and the weak, but they too have indicated support for single wage agreements.
If the proposal introduced by the two major trade unions becomes law, the smaller unions effectively won't have a chance anymore. They would only be able to negotiate when everyone else does. But if the large unions decide not to negotiate, the small unions would essentially be thwarted for 5 to 10 years.
The Federal Labor Court's decision was first welcomed by small unions like the train drivers' representatives, but now they face the prospect of losing all power.
Our members decided to join this union because they felt we represented their interests. And if our right to sign wage agreements or go on strike to obtain them is taken away, then our members will be entitled to ask, what can you actually do for us?
Smaller unions now feel abandoned by policymakers. They say if new legislation makes it impossible for them to engage in wage negotiations, they'll appeal the ruling.